Good morning, class 7. We will be continuing with chapter 2 of your history book, New Kings and Kingdoms. We have started the chapter in the previous class where we have talked about the new dynasties which emerged after 7th century AD. And I have told you to mark these dynasties on the map of India. The dynasties were Chahmanas, Gurjar Pratiharas, Chandelas, Cheras, Cholas, Pandyas, Palas, and paste it in your notebooks. We have talked about how the dynasties were emerging. They initially the Samantas, who were, like you can say, the subordinates of the king, who have adopted the titles like Mahasamanta or Mahamandaleshwar, that is the great lord of a circle or a region. Then we have talked about Hiranyagarbha, which was considered as an important ritual to be performed if a person who was not a Kshatriya was given, was going to be the ruler. So he performed this ritual, which was literally meaning the golden womb, because the rulers from Pratyaharas, they were Brahmins. So, in examples, we can see like Kadamba Mayur Sarman and the Gurjar Pratihara ruler Harichandra. They were Brahmins. So, they have traditionally performed this ritual to access to the throne, and so that people can accept them that ways. Then we have talked about the administration of the kingdom. So the kings also adopted the titles which were, had very, you can say, had too much of impact on the name itself. That like Maharaja Dhiraj, that means the great king. Tribhuvan Chakravartin, that means Tribhuvan, that means who is the lord of the three world. Three, that is three, right? So Tribhuvan Chakravartin. These titles were adopted by them. Then we have talked about the different taxes which these rulers took from people from to maintain. And obviously you can relate it because nowadays also we are paying taxes to the government. We have discussed about prashastis and the land grants. So prashasti was something like which was written in praise of the king by the learned Brahmins, and these Brahmins sometimes helped the king in the administration as well. So, king often rewarded Brahmanas by grants of land. These were recorded on copper plates, which were given to those who received the land. So, this was the last thing which we have discussed in the last class. These copper plates were kept as a record, and there they had the seal of the king. So, just as a proof that it was these particular land was given to the Brahmins or other people, whatever, so that the record were kept. Then what was given with the land? This is the part of the Tamil section of a land grant given by the Cholas. We have demarcated the boundaries of the land by making earthen embankment as well as by planting thorny bushes. This is what the land contains: fruit bearing trees, water, land, gardens and orchards, trees, wells, open spaces, pasture land, a village, ant hills, platforms, canals, ditches, rivers, silt laden land, tanks, granaries, fish ponds, beehives, and deep lakes. He who receives the land can collect taxes from it. He can collect the taxes imposed by judicial officers as fines, the tax on betel leaves, that on woven cloth, as well as on vehicles. He can build large rooms with upper stories made of baked bricks. He can get large and small wells dug. He can plant trees and thorny bushes if necessary. He can get canals constructed for irrigation. He should ensure that water is not wasted and that embankments are built. So these things was to be done, and that means they were very particular about the wastage of the water. So the embankments were to be built so that the water was not wasted. They had the thorny bushes on the embankments. They had land which with the fruit bearing trees. They had orchards, trees, wells, they had pasture land, open space, all these things were there. Unusual for the 12th century was a long Sanskrit poem containing the history of kings who ruled over Kashmir. It was composed by an author named Kalhan. He used a variety of sources, including inscriptions, documents, eyewitnesses, accounts, and earlier histories to write his account. Unlike the writers of Prashastis, he was often critical about rulers and their policies. So, something which was unusual in the 12th century, that was the Sanskrit poem which was written by Kalhan, and he had what he has written, he has got the sources or the material from eyewitnesses, from the inscriptions, from the documents, earlier histories, and then he has written. Unlike the writers of Prashasti, he was often critical about rulers and their policies. So here that means he was critical. He used to criticize the policies which he felt was not good for the public. So he criticized them, which is something different. Otherwise, usually the Brahmins who wrote Prashasti, they used to praise the king. Warfare, war wealth. You may have noticed that each of these ruling dynasties was based in a specific region. At the same time, they tried to control other areas. One particularly prized area was the city of Kannauj in the Ganga Valley. For centuries, rulers belonging to the Gurjar Pratihara, Rashtrakuta, and Pala dynasties fought for control over Kannauj because there were three parties in this long drawn conflict. Historians often describe it as tripartite struggle. So tripartite means three parties involved in a struggle, and who were they? Gurjar Pratiharas, Rashtrakutas, and Palas. The reason for fight was that they wanted control over Kannauj. As we will see, rulers also tried to demonstrate their power and resources by building large temples. So when they attacked one another's kingdom, they often chose to target temples, which were sometimes extremely rich. You will read more about this in chapter 5. So just to mark their supremacy, they attacked the other kingdom, and especially the temples, because they had kept their resources. One of the best known of such rulers is Sultan Mahmud of Ghazni, who came from Afghanistan. He ruled from 997 to 1030 and extended control over parts of Central Asia, Iran, and the northwestern part of the subcontinent. He raided the subcontinent almost every year. His targets were wealthy temples, including that of Somnath Temple, which is in Gujarat. It is very famous expedition which was carried out by him, and in very many competitive exams also this question is asked. So he raided the temple of Somnath. Much of the wealth Mahmud carried away was used to create a splendid capital city at Ghazni. Sultan Mahmud was also interested in finding out more about the people he conquered and entrusted a scholar named Al-Biruni to write an account of the subcontinent. This Arabic work, known as the Kitab al-Hind, remains an important source for historians. He consulted Sanskrit scholars to prepare this account. So since Sultan Mahmud was interested in knowing about the people where he was conquering or where he was carrying out his expedition, so he asked one of the scholars who was given the task of compiling, and he wrote a book known as Kitab al-Hind, where he had mentioned about the people. So he has consulted the Sanskrit scholars, and then he had prepared this account. Other kings who engaged in warfare included the Chahmanas, later known as the Chauhans, who ruled over the region around Delhi and Ajmer. They attempted to expand their control to the west and the east, where they were opposed by the Chalukyas of Gujarat and the Gahdalwas of western Uttar Pradesh. The best known Chamana ruler was Prithviraj III from 1168 to 1192, who defeated an Afghan ruler named Sultan Muhammad Ghori in 1191, but lost to him the very next year in 1192. So it is said that in the first year he just defeated him, he didn't kill him, and maybe if he would have killed him, then the history would have been different. But then he left him, he spared his life, and in the very next year he lost to him. A closer look, the Cholas. So from Urayur to Thanjavur, how did Chola rise to power? A minor chiefly family known as the Muttairiyar held power in the Kaveri Delta. They were subordinate to the Pallav king of Kanchipuram, Vijayalaya, who belonged to the ancient chiefly family of the Cholas from Urayur, captured the delta from Muttairiyar in the middle of the 9th century. He built the town of Thanjavur and a temple for goddess Nishumbhasini. That means here what happened was that a minor, like initially there was a, like which was not very popular, so a minor chief family which were, they had done, like this is a South Indian name, so maybe pronunciation might vary. Muttairiyar, he had the power in the Kaveri Delta, like he had control over the like Kaveri Delta. Why they wanted to have control over the deltas? So the reason was that these areas were, like you can say, very good for agriculture. They were subordinate, like they were under the Pallav king of Kanchipuram. Vijayalaya who belonged to the ancient chiefly families of Chola from Urayur. So here the chiefly families at Muttairiyar, and here Vijayalaya, he was the from the Chola family from Urayur. He captured delta from Muttairiyar. So he defeated Muttairiyar and he captured the delta of Kaveri in the middle of 9th century. And there what he did was he built the town of Thanjavur and a temple for goddess Nishum Vasudini. The successors of Vijayalaya conquered neighboring regions and the kingdoms grew in size and power. The Pandyan and the Pallav territories to the south and north were made part of this kingdom. So they were so powerful that gradually they had control over the Pandyans and the Pallavas. Raja I, considered the most powerful Chola ruler, became king in 985 and expanded control over most of these areas. He also reorganized the administration of the empire. Raja's son Rajendra I continued his policies and even raided the Ganga Valley, Sri Lanka, and countries of Southeast Asia, developing a navy for these expeditions. So, the most important ruler of Chola dynasty was Raja I, and he's very famous. He expanded the control over the area, he reorganized the administration, and his son Rajendra I continued his policies and even raided the Ganga Valley and some countries like Sri Lanka and some countries of Southeast Asia. So that means they must have, they must be having a very good navy, because then only they could have control over Southeast Asian countries and Sri Lanka. Splendid temples and bronze sculpture. The big temples of Thanjavur and Gangaikonda Cholapuram, built by Raja and Rajendra, are architectural and sculptural marvels. Chola temples often became the nuclei of settlements which grew around them. These were centers of craft production. Temples were also endowed with land by rulers as well as by others. So these temples were given the land by the rulers as well as other rich people also donated land to the temples. The produce of this land went into maintaining all the specialists who worked at the temple and very often lived near it, like priests, garland makers, cooks, sweepers, musicians, dancers, etc. In other words, temples were not only places of worship, they were the hub of economic, social, and cultural life as well. So the money which was collected from the land, like when after the produce was sold off, that was used in maintaining the people who were living in the temple or near the temple for the sake of the temple. That is the priest, the garland makers, the cooks, sweepers, musicians, and dancers. So you can say in a way it was the hub of economic, social, and cultural life. Amongst the crafts associated with temples, the making of bronze images was the most distinctive. Chola bronze images are considered amongst the finest in the world. While most images were of deities, sometimes images were made of devotees as well. So the images you can see they were well made, and most of the time it was of the deity, that is of gods, but sometimes the images of the devotees were also made. Here you can see the temple, and it is written the temple of Gangai Cholapuram. Notice the way in which the roof tapers. Also look at the elaborate stone sculptures used to decorate the outer walls. So this is very unique feature, and you can see that in most of the temples in south, if you have visited, this is the style they used to make the temples in, and that is very attractive. So with this we end the class here, and we will be continuing in the next class. Thank you. Take care of yourselves. Be safe at home.